Hello everyone, and welcome to English 112 online for this week. Today we're going to be talking about formulating an identity strategy as part of an advanced offense. Identity strategy gets the audience to bond with one another and see you as the ideal leader. Your choices become the will of the people, and anyone who chooses otherwise risks being separated from the group. Identity strategy also commits an audience to action through identifying with the choices that define them as a group. Part of identity strategy involves using values-based language. You want to make sure your language mirrors your audience's values. This also exploits our need to belong and is closely associated with tribal talk. Now, as you read in your book, part of forming an identity strategy involves code grooming. This is the use of insider language to get the audience to identify with you. This involves slang, jargon, and political code language. As you know, every profession has its own terminology. Heinrichs mentions George W. Bush as being a master at code grooming. He formulated what sounded like sense and had a different code for each audience he was addressing. So, for example, when he was addressing Christians, he would use words like believe over and over again. When his audience was largely female, he used code words such as peace, security, and protecting. When he was addressing the military, he used phrases such as never relent, we must not waver. Now, sound of sense sounds kind of funny. It's actually based on a theory that Robert Frost developed, the great American poet. This has to do with logic-free values. It relies completely on intuitive meaning from code words. It does not rely on logic. Rhythm, tone, and emphasized words are key in formulating the sound of sense, which is something you're going to want to keep in mind when you have your presentations later in the semester. The sound of sense or logic-free values also makes more sense in a speech, which relies heavily on emotion, rather than print, which relies heavily on logic. It's very important to keep in mind that language is most persuasive when it is framed in the positive. One is not failing, for example, they just haven't hit their stride yet. Finding specific commonplace terms that make the group bond should be repeated over and over again. You're also going to want to avoid repeating your opponent's terms when you deny them. Use vocabulary that means the opposite of what your opponent has used. Identity strategy allows your audience to not only identify with you, but also the choices that you make. And that is really what it's all about. Sorry, hokey pokey. Most of our day-to-day arguments do not set about making rational choices. Rather, future and present tenses often get mixed together. We are still concerned about keeping the tribe together. And irony is one way that you can say one thing to outsiders with meaning only revealed to your group. It's all about identity, which, coincidentally, is the password for your quiz this week. Make sure you spell it with a capital I. Code grooming can manipulate you in subtle ways. You want to look out for particular codes that appeal to groups you identify with. And of course, groups you identify with are largely aligned with your educational status, your gender, your class, your race, your political leanings, your age, and your hobbies, amongst many others.